She was invited to speak, then silenced, mocked, and interrupted on live TV. But what they didn't expect was for Karoline Leavitt to fight back with just one sentence that left the arrogant host completely speechless. This wasn't just a clapback, it was a moment that stunned millions. And trust me, you're going to want to see it. The moment was electric. Viewers didn't just see a political interview, they witnessed a live television showdown. Karoline Leavitt, a rising conservative star, sat across from a host known for his confrontational style. The segment was supposed to last 5 minutes, but what happened instead set the internet ablaze. The host, smug and dismissive, barely let Karoline speak. From the start, his tone was mocking. He interrupted, rolled his eyes, and smirked as if he were trying to push her into a meltdown. But Karoline wasn't having it. She remained calm, but with a fire in her eyes. She waited patiently, and the moment he cut her off for the 4th time in 2 minutes, she leaned forward and delivered a line that would go viral by midnight. "Excuse me, do you want an answer, or do you just enjoy hearing yourself interrupt?" Boom. The studio fell silent. The host blinked. The audience, both in the studio and watching from home, felt the energy shift. It was bold, direct, and completely unexpected. She didn't shout. She didn't lose control. She simply stood her ground with confidence. This wasn't just a political moment, it was personal. Every young person who's ever been talked over. Every woman who's ever been dismissed. Every underdog who's ever been underestimated, they saw themselves in her. Karoline Leavitt had just turned a setup into a stand-up. And the internet would make sure the whole world saw it. Karoline was invited under the guise of a youth political roundtable. She was told this was a chance to share her views on young people in politics and civic engagement. But as soon as the cameras started rolling, it was clear, this wasn't a conversation. It was a setup. The host, who'd built his career on aggressive debate, wasn't interested in hearing what Karoline had to say. Instead of asking about her platform, experience, or work in the Trump administration, he zeroed in on her age and party affiliation. "Isn't it irresponsible to put someone so young in a position of political influence?" he sneered. Instead of addressing her actual ideas, he questioned her legitimacy. He smirked at her answers, constantly interrupted her, and tried to portray her as naive. It wasn't journalism, it was ambush entertainment. But Karoline came prepared. She didn't just have talking points, she had purpose. With poise and professionalism, she redirected every question back to the issue. When he mocked her generation, she countered with facts about youth voter turnout. When he challenged her qualifications, she cited her record of service and leadership. And every time he interrupted, she patiently waited and then continued, until she delivered the now famous line that turned the interview on its head. That's when viewers realized, this wasn't about political sides. It was about how we treat people with different opinions. Karoline wasn't just defending herself, she was defending the right to speak without being shouted down. And the host, who had expected a weak target, was now stuck in a moment he couldn't control. Then came the moment that truly changed everything. Midway through the interview, the host tried to corner Karoline with a loaded question about her support for specific conservative policies. He exaggerated her stance, twisted her words, and tried to force her into a defensive position. But instead of backing down, Karoline leaned forward, looked him straight in the eye, and said, "I came here to have a conversation, not to be bullied into silence. If you can't handle a different opinion, maybe you're in the wrong seat." That single sentence sent shockwaves through the room. It wasn't said with anger. It was said with conviction. The host didn't have a comeback. For once, he was speechless. The audience watching from home took to social media instantly. Hashtags like #Karoline Leavitt and #MicDrop started trending within the hour. Clips of the moment were reposted across Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. People called it the greatest political takedown of the year, and praised her for doing something many wouldn't dare, standing up to a powerful media figure live on air. It wasn't about being rude, it was about refusing to be walked over. Karoline didn't raise her voice. She raised the standard. That moment wasn't just a win for her. It was a win for every person who's ever felt silenced by authority, belittled for their beliefs, or told they were too young to know anything. Karoline showed that strength doesn't always come with shouting. Sometimes, it comes with clarity. And that's exactly what she gave: clear, sharp, undeniable truth. What set Karoline apart that day wasn't just what she said, but how she said it. She didn't lash out. She didn't storm off. She didn't match the host's arrogance with her own. Instead, she showed something even more powerful: grace under pressure. After calling out the host for his disrespect, Karoline immediately steered the conversation back to what mattered. She talked about how more young people are getting involved in politics, not because they're told to, but because they care. She shared stories from her own experience mentoring young leaders and emphasized the importance of hearing all voices, not just the loudest ones. Free speech doesn't mean one side gets to dominate the mic, she said. It means we listen, even when we disagree. Her words cut deeper than any insult ever could. She reminded everyone watching what real leadership looks like: calm in chaos, strength in silence, focus in the face of provocation. The host, visibly taken aback, shifted gears. He let her speak without interruption. The power dynamic had flipped completely. And the audience saw it all. Thousands of people flooded the network's social channels, not to attack the host, but to thank Karoline for holding her own without losing her cool. That kind of discipline isn't just learned. It's earned. And Karoline proved she had it in every moment of that interview. She didn't just win the argument. She won the respect of millions, by staying true to her voice when someone tried to take it away. In the hours after the interview aired, the internet couldn't stop talking. Within 24 hours, the clip had racked up over 10 million views across platforms. But what made it go viral wasn't just the confrontation, it was the message behind it. Karoline took to social media that evening to post her response. It wasn't celebratory or cocky. It was thoughtful and empowering. We need to bring back civil debate in this country. Disagreement is healthy. Disrespect is not. Thank you to everyone who believes young people have a voice that matters. That message struck a chord. Politicians, celebrities, teachers, and students alike shared her post. She was invited on more news shows, but this time, on her own terms. Even some people who didn't agree with her politics admitted they respected her courage. One prominent liberal commentator tweeted, "We need more guests like Karoline, sharp, respectful, and unafraid." Her story became more than just a viral moment. It became a teaching moment. Karoline proved that confidence doesn't mean arrogance. That being young doesn't mean being unprepared. And that the loudest voice in the room isn't always the wisest. She also reminded us of a simple truth: you don't have to shout to be heard. Sometimes, all it takes is standing up, clearly, calmly, and courageously. And when Karoline Leavitt did just that, she didn't just leave a rude host speechless. She left a country inspired. If you found Karoline Leavitt's mic drop moment as powerful as we did, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more real, raw, and inspiring stories like this one.